culture in the East, like Japan type place.
Yeah, because
I would not know. I'm not a weeaboo.
Weeb.
It's also obscene to look somebody in the eyes.
It's obscene to give somebody
Like everything,
eyes.
everything that is like proper over here it's the fucking opposite over there. I'm not saying holding your fists up to somebody is proper over here, but I mean, if you're in Georgia, it kind of is.
I remember one time I asked for directions to somebody, and they shot me in the neck.
I remember one time when we played. Oh, damn. Fuck!
Goddamn cunt.
I tried to be a jackass. Let me guess, Terry gonna crash in 3, 2, 1.
Don't. I got in, motherfucker. It worked.
I'm still loading.
There's like a 60% chance that it's gonna crash. Just you'll know it when it happens. Just don't scream.
Oh yeah, my Switch finally got here.
Your what?
My Switch.
Oh, Switch. Okay, I did hear you right.
But it's broken.
Yeah. The console itself is not broken, but the dock that you put it in to make it play on a TV, that's broken. Also, hot diggity damn.
Right?
Have we got a new dock yet?
Noob said he's gonna give me his.
I'd be laughing if it turns out it's not the dock.
If that's the case, then I'm fucking suing Amazon. Or Nintendo, I haven't decided yet.
Alright, Jamel. Where are we dropping? Think we're coming in from here?
Like this Fallout New Vegas-esque map.
No, it's close.
Hot diggity damn. I don't know where we should go. What's the equivalent to the apartments?
There's a graveyard.
Yeah, no, that's the school.
Oh.
Oh, there's trailer park.
Let's go to water treatment. I feel like that would be a good area.
Okay, we're gonna get fucked, but okay.
Is that like a bad area?
It's a big area, straight in line with the plane. What do you think? Why don't we go here?
We're going?
Orange.
Alright, fine. We'll go here. Orange.
Okay.
Wait, was there always an orange?
3, 2, 1.
It's different colors for this one.
Oh, that's neat. I like the UI changes. They're nice.
Yeah.
I've only seen very briefly of the UI changes.
I'm back. I had to.
Oh yeah, there's at least fucking 20 people going to water treatment. So
I just had to cut my cat's nails. So
I just had to slit my cat's fucking throat.
That area on top of the hill.
Why does it feel like we're dropping a lot, like longer?
Slower? Yeah. It also seems like the parachute goes a little bit slower than it normally did.
Oh yeah, I went opposites for my test server character.
It's actually appropriate on this fucking map. Wow, that's a real shit shack. Look at this shit.
Yeah, there's some actual shit shacks here. So I do gotta say, I like the hey, I got Scar too.
So after you guys are done, I'll actually be able to play.
I like the UI changes, but now it feels kind of weird because
yeah, weird.
I'm not used to everything not being slightly opaque.
Oh.
I'm
not used to people not farting into my mouth and having to inhale them.
There is
that happens to other people.
Backpack level 1 over here if anybody needs it.
Are you sure, Jamal?
I just found one. Also, I found an M4 if anybody wants it. Hot damn. I'm never gonna have this kind of.
I'm actually doing really well. I've got a shotgun. I've got a Scar. Got a fucking level 2 helmet.
Also, I like the new kill feed. It's in
my
such
dick.
a better spot.
He is bigger than my dick. Yo, dick is small.
I haven't heard that in fucking years.
What a good song.
Dude, I feel like I'm playing fucking Borderlands.
Guys, I found my shirt! Oh yeah, Jamal, go walk up to a box and press space.
Space?
Yeah, you can... Wait, can you vault?
Yep.
Oh yeah, they added
and you can also
vaulting.
jump, too. They didn't take away jumping.
Did you guys check the building to the east?
Which one?
Oh yeah, I checked that.
I'm not gonna lie, they actually...
I already got everything out of it. Do you need a rifle? I got a rifle.
No, I got a rifle, I just need ammo. Well, there's a dune buggy here, but
I've
there's
only got fucking 35.56.
Yeah, well, that's all I got. Total three.
I have 30 extra 5.56. You know what? Come here, guys. I have a shotgun as well.
What kind of shotgun? Because here's a choke and some bullet loops.
Oh, sorry, I'll drop that.
I'm gonna drop my entire SCAR because I can't take the ammo out. Oh, I was gonna give each of you 30.
Okay.
Oh man, delicious skim milk.
There's only 15 here, you hack fraud.
I'll take 15 because I took fucking... Terry,
There we
no,
go.
take a gun so we at least all have a fucking mag.
Okay.
Trust me, you're gonna regret, like, getting a firefight and you'll be like, oh fuck, I wish I didn't.
Oh shit.
Why are we
Oh,
getting fucking shots off anyway?
I just noticed this over here.
What?
Oh, that's good.
What?
There's a fence
we
that's
can go in.
floating.
Oh.
Yeah, you can prone under it. Also, we got a fucking boogie oogie.
Yeah, we gotta get going.
Who can't like stuff boogie woogie?
Alright, we gotta go this way. This is fucking weird, man.
Feels good though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels good. This is what I've wanted for, like, years.
Years?
That hasn't been out for years.
No, it has. I could time travel, remember? I mean, just yesterday I was playing on Mindstick like it was fucking 2011.
Oh, Jamal,
Oh my god, stop that.
Jamal, when you left, there was like some asshole on the server.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
he
he
was
was such
telling
a fucking cock.
Yeah.
What was he doing?
He was just acting like he was better than everybody. I've run at least 7 or 8 Minecraft servers. Don't
he's
worry.
He was basically just being like, I should be mod here, yada yada yada.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah. He was being a fucking shithead, and then me and Terry were just being I think
At some point he said, "Why are you mad, bro?" And I just said, "Hey, Falcon, you owe me $5." You know.
I think then I just kept like saying something along the lines of like, yeah, you know, my mom said I can play, but if the server crashes, she'll hit me with a rock again.
She'll just beat me with a fucking rock.
I think
And then I
there's
just
a car over there we can use.
Wait, shoot or drive?
Drive. You're not even in here.
All right, hold on, I'm behind you guys.
There's probably a shitload of people coming this way from.
Although my download is completo, senpai.
Completo, por favor.
Completo.
That makes no sense.
What the fuck? Where did I hear?
Yeah, there's
completo?
definitely a vehicle that we can drive over
Oh,
here.
that's a pickup truck. I saw those.
Oh.
Also, I'm really scared to do this, but
Same.
That's a baseball.
hey, we're fine. All right. I thought we were about to fall at New Vegas. It.
What?
It's a Bronco!
Ooh.
Oh, that's not even the one I was looking at, but cool.
Reference memory at memory could not be read. Click OK.
Wow,
Just don't
this
just
is
run me
actually-
over.
Slow.
Terry, dumb question.
Yep.
What was the air report you had?
What the what now?
What was the air report you were getting when like you couldn't launch the game or whatever?
Oh, just validate the files. It fixed it for me. It's yeah. I crashed a shitload. I just kept trying. It'll happen eventually.
I absolutely love the fact of how smooth this runs now.
Woo.
Oh my god. Wait. How smooth.
Like, I'm getting 80 FPS when I normally get 40.
Oh, this is a
God.
bad fucking idea. What are you doing? Oh my god. Okay, desync.
Dink.
Okay, it was dink. We were dinking.
This thing's fucking slow. It's like a tank.
Don't worry about it.
But we're so well protected in an Andar. Look how well protected we are. My entire lower region is protected in this thing.
And your
Almost.
character looks like your sister.
Almost. My entire lower region is almost protected.
I thought we were okay. Where do you want to go?
Into the zone.
I like the fucking air pressure that's just
Whoa,
going
what is it
insane.
doing?
Little screech.
I wonder if I like do this if I'm gonna shoot you guys still. I wonder if that was fixed. Can we drive that?
What?
That bus back there? Is that drivable?
No,
God,
it's
doesn't-
debris.
Oh, look at that up there. What is that? Graveyard. That's cool. It's a church.
Oh man, I can get in the bell tower and snipe people. I'm
Can?
already planning.
Why are we driving through a red zone?
We're fine.
There,
Famous last fucking words. Is that a Camaro? No. I don't know what
I like how I still have heartburn, by the way.
Still. Wait, what did you eat?
Chinese food, specifically Jenner sauce.
specifically called.
Oh my god, I hate this fucking piece of shit.
Oh, dots.
I don't even know where the hell to look at.
They were going from the town somewhere.
It's a beautiful day in the
Well, we're pretty well in the zone. Go ahead and go to yellow.
Beautiful day in the neighborhood.
There's
Beautiful.
probably nobody there.
They're
Famous
not.
last words.
You know, it feels weird that we're not in Russia no more. Oh, hey, it's the green building.
Is this where we died last time?
Technically, there are deserts in Russia.
I've never been here. Oh, okay.
If you think about
Andar, I
it.
think this is where we fucking died last time.
Whoa, what the
that?
hell is that?
Did you hear that explosion?
Yeah, what was that? The red zone?
The red zone.
We're pretty far away from it, man. I don't really know how the desert is yet. This is my first time on it. I do gotta say I like it though.
The game runs smooth.
Yeah, how am I supposed to get to these? Oh, vaulting's
God,
a
you scared
thing
me, Andar.
now.
Your fucking your little nameplate is orange and it just blends in. I thought you were a guy.
Well, Jamal is a guy, technically.
No, I
No,
was
I'm
talking
playing
about
I'm playing as a female on the test server.
That's probably better because you have less of a hitbox.
frying pan.
Is that real?
I'm assuming so.
Guys, don't worry. I found a massive fucking fur coat to wear.
Oh yeah, apparently vaulting's a thing now.
How does it work?
You press
just-
space.
Yeah, you just run up to something and press space.
Just press space and you just kind of go. Whoop.
So apparently I am actually wrong. I thought the hitboxes were smaller, but they just look smaller.
I mean, that's how most things are. Do you really think they'd go through the extra effort to do something like that?
Well, also, that'd be really unbalanced, too, but...
Yeah, and then I did another reason to call Noob a sweaty tryhard.
Oh, shit, there is... Oh, shit, character creator. I can actually make a character that looks different this time.
Yeah, boy. Boy. So you look hot as shit in the desert right now.
You like my coat, Andar?
Nice. I dropped 100 some odd rounds in 9 mil of someone.
Why are they playing Marvel theme songs from, like,
Somebody
the...
is 9 mil. I dropped 100 rounds at my feet here.
Nah, I'm alright.
Shots fired northeast.
Please let me...
Close?
I don't know.
Wait, can you change your appearance for free?
No.
Oh, no. Dang it.
That's what I thought too.
I mean, it kind of makes sense in the test server, but, you know, fuck us, right?
God, I wish they would.
How high up can I go on this fucking building?
Alright. You guys can invite me whenever. I'm actually ready. I didn't think I'd actually download it this fast. Holy shit.
Well, we'll invite you once we all die, which will probably
Yeah, I don't know
fucking
how
soon.
vaulting works yet. I was trying to get onto the roof
I don't
of
think
this
we can.
building. Be nice if we could, man. Think of the possibilities of choke points.
No, that's not how that works.
Can't wait to see how broken the old map is, though.
So we're gonna duck out. Oh no, we gotta go.
This looks like where my uncle makes moonshine.
Let's kick it, boys. Back to the
I'm
Bronco.
going the wrong way. Back to the Bronco.
Bronco's running low on gas, so if you find a gas tank.
I know exactly where I could find one.
I actually have a gas tank. I always pick one up if I find one. Because I'm good like that.
After the
Oh,
last
no.
time we played PUBG and we got to the final zone. Oh, my game crashed. Nope, never mind. Alt-tabbed. Thanks, GeForce. I love it whenever you tell me there's drivers that I don't need to download to. Love it. Oh. I wish
You
we
in the
could
car
drive
there,
the
Rob?
tractor.
Looks like a nice little ranch. Look at that place.
Look at that.
Probably have time if you want to check it out. Yeah. You're probably right.
Wait, did that sign say we're hitting the Chumbawamba? I like that band.
No.
No, it did not. There's a lot more C's than that.
El
Well, we're in
Barto.
Mexico.
Fuck, too many corners to check.
Hey, found a med kit, found a first aid kit.
Coffee, Cheetos,
chicken.
Nothing in the bell tower.
Oh, switch to sawed off. I will.
I haven't seen any of the new weapons yet. Hey, look, toilets!
Hey, look, Jamel. The
Hmm.
sawed off shotgun takes the place of the fucking pistol.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. Look, I have 2 guns and a sawed off.
Holy fuck, that's awesome. And it actually seems useful.
Yeah.
Back in black.
Alright, should we duck out?
Oh, we're close enough to the zone. It hasn't even started moving yet, so.
True.
What's wrong, Andar?
Nah, Noob's not here. Nothing's wrong yet, Andor. Oh.
Oh, there's the fucking lever action rifle here if you want it. Takes 45 ACP.
I'll swap it out. I mean, I've got a SCAR that I'm not using here at all.
Okay, well, I'll take that fucking ammo then.
I mean, I need the ammo because I still only have 1 mag.
Oh.
What else are you using it for? I thought
It takes 45 ACP, by the way, so.
This isn't automatic, is it?
If you pump fast enough, it is.
That's what she said.
Oh god, Terry, you scared the shit out of me.
Move.
I'm
Move.
trying to get
Stop
through,
white
you
gir-
piece
Stop
of
white
shit.
girling me.
Fucking, there's a piss stain on this bed.
Shall we take the vehicle and get the fuck out now?
I think we shall.
Dude, I think a snow map would look really good in this game.
Oh, man. Just imagine a fucking white ghillie suit on that. Nigh undetectable. Can these
Dog
no.
whale hunting.
Game is garbage. Swings don't move. Let's go, boys.
I mean, a lot of things don't move. Where's the military base on this map? Oh,
Bottom
top
left.
One of
right.
the corners.
Top right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
the, what,
Oh,
what's
This might
the,
be a
the,
bad
bottom,
idea, but.
the bottom left corner of that
Screech!
the weird little island.
We haven't seen another player yet at all.
We can pair that.
Oh, military
what-
list for 3.
Oh shit, someone's honking their horn. Jamal, you streaming?
Yeah, I am. You're also not in the session, so I'm gonna disregard. Oh, Terry, what the fuck was that?
I don't know. I don't know what happened to me.
Did you have a glitch in the Matrix there?
Oh shit. Oh shit, there's like a little pine tree scented thing in the new cars.
Yeah, it fucking flings around it like crazy.
It's fucking great.
It basically
They got
clover
nail doors.
hairs. Fucking vaulting's weird as shit, man.
No.
Fucking, I want to climb up this box, not goddamn GTA car slide over it. That didn't work.
Wow, man, this zone seems to be really fucking us today.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to get into it now, or?
May as well.
Okay.
Nah, might as
I mean,
well.
it's not like we're in the greatest spot.
They did a good job of making this feel like a fucking barren wasteland.
Mexico?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, shotgun.
Memer 24.
What's wrong, Andar? Andar, what's wrong?
That wasn't
Andar?
Andar sighing, it was me vaping.
Andar, what's wrong, Andar? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
Better wasteland than Fallout 4.
aw.
That's true.
I
Yeah.
actually like the Fallout 4 map.
It's just fucking Mexico.
I can't wait until we get a map set in America.
That's never gonna happen. People only want these battle royale maps to be in like Russia or like
Doors are open. Be careful.
basically just boring places. No one ever wants like the Rocky Mountains or something.
Shots fired
It'd
northeast.
be cool to get like a New York City-esque place.
What about like a place in Minnesota? Huh?
That'd be lame.
Why isn't there one that's set in Canada?
I mean, that's where the snow map could be
What
set.
happens in Canada?
I mean, there's a lot of shootings, I hear.
Okay, never mind.
You know what's really throwing me off though? The fact that they use the box that has all the players' shit whenever you kill them. That fucking model is like just scattered around. Oh, I found the sawn off. Oh, dude,
I've
that's
got plenty of
fucking
extra
cool.
shells if you want one.
Nah, I'm probably never gonna use
There's
it.
like 10 or 15 or 20 or something by it, so.
I
I don't
seriously
like how
wish we could use
low
these
all the
trackers.
windows are.
What's wrong, Andor?
Can't find gear!
Andar, what's wrong? What do you need? I might have something for you.
No, just like I want more ammo, I want more fucking guns. I've only seen like 2 different assault rifles.
No, you can just get the same new shit over and over again.
No, I'm getting only the new shit.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, I'm stuck with a fucking lever action rifle, sawed
shit,
off
player.
shotguns that take up.
Player
Maybe.
295.
I'm actually gonna check.
Oh, I see him. There's 2 guys, I think.
Build says beggars
West
can't be
Terry, just so
choosers.
you know. It's on the right side of the house. I got a bad feeling we're gonna get shot in the ass. 295, 300. $310. 150 meters. I don't have the ammo to fuck around with.
We got some shit to fuck around with.
Oh, we better start moving to the new zone.
Oh my god, there's a motorcycle in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, there is.
Taking shots. Got hit.
Where from?
Motherfucker, I'm taking shots from north. Oh my god, I'm getting shot at from both angles.
Fucking same. Yep. And I'm down.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Where the fuck are they?
I'm stuck. No.
Well, Jamel. Oh. Hey, I had some meds on me if you want to take them.
Yeah, but you're out of the open, man.
No, there's a bush there.
Man, I'm already getting fucking shot at still. I don't even know where it's coming from.
Well, if you guys die, I could tell you.
So I went on one side of the barrier, so you're getting fucking shot at. So I went to the other side, got shot at. So I went in the middle, fucking Terry gets down. Oh shit!
Oh, there's somebody.
I didn't realize how far away you guys got from me.
Oh, I see someone.
I'm walking around
It's
like, where
probably
the fuck-
good that you
oh,
stayed
hey.
back there. Don't come up.
Yeah, Jam, watch it. There's someone in that town.
Yeah, he's getting
Oh,
shot. Yep.
okay. I didn't know there was... I'm retarded, I think.
Yeah, you're getting there.
I seriously thought you guys were still in the town with me. Look at my butt, though. Look at my
No.
blood splatter that for some reason moves on my body.
Don't worry about it.
I'm gonna find a nice place to die.
Oh, there's somebody. Nice.
How could this happen to me? Made my mistakes.
Yeah.
Got nowhere to run. Oh fuck, Andar, you were the definition of pinned down right now, dude.
Oh,
Yeah,
it shows how
I'm
much it's gonna
so
heal you.
fucked.
Oh, that zone.
I didn't realize there was only 15 people left.
Fucking fuck.
It's gonna take a while to get used to, I think.
I'm so dead. Fucking barriers, man!
Oh, that sucks.
I like the fact that you go to do the vault, like, over it,
Yeah.
and, like, your body ragdolls
just
midway
ragdoll
through it.
Alright, Fruit, let's
You
go.
basically just GTA'd there.
Kill yourself.
This guy.
Man, I'm upset about one thing, though. Wait, what? Match is still in progress, continue?
Just don't. No.
Oh man, I was right fucking beside two of them.
Oh, I forgot to check. Damn it.
Oh yeah, you can do that now. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's when we're all dead, so.
I want my items.
Yeah, I was fucked. There's two people right beside me.
I want to see my outfit.
Fruit.
He has his shit muted.
Oh,
Must you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I go for like 2 minutes. I'm sorry you guys died.
Well,
hey, Onion.
Yeah.
Guess what Grim just said right now?
What's that?
He was sending me a video to Kraken again, right?
Mhm.
So I showed up you and Kraken. He says he's like a streamer who actually streams good content. I've been starved for that kind of material.
Can I get an invite, or you just spammed me on Steam for about 100 words here?
Sorry. What the fuck am I doing?
what the fuck is this? Jesus Christ. What a ragtag group. Look at
Sorry,
this.
I had to get Fruit in here. He had his shit muted. I had to get his attention somehow.
Alright,
How do I look?
fuckers. You look like an asshole.
Oh, did I not ready? Oh, okay.
Oh wow, they have the Heroes of the Storm ready animations. Oh boy.
What did I do?
Me motherfucker.
I fucked up my green screen somehow.
Good. I hope your green screen collapses on you when you're sleeping and suffocates you.
That's not how green screens work, pal.
It could be.
So wait, your green screen isn't a large piece of cloth?
No, it is, but it's like as thin as a bed sheet.
Where are all the guns on this map?
Well,
Sorry,
Jamal,
I
if
didn't go anymore.
you're saying a bed sheet couldn't kill you, well, I guess we can always
I mean, like a
find
bed
out.
sheet full of rocks would hurt me, I think.
Well, no, like if I were to smother you is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Smother me with
Dick.
rocks. Fruit, I want to suck the farts out of your asshole.
Okay, go right ahead. I warn you, I haven't
You're
blinked in a while.
overdoing it. It's not going to be weird anymore. Stop it.
Well, I mean, it was only weird when Terry did it the first time. After it kept happening, it stopped being as weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jamal ruined it, Terry. It's over now.
God damn it, Jamal. You ruined everything.
I mean, that's
All
what
right, I want
figured
to pick
you.
this time. Fuck
Hey,
you guys.
look,
I'm
the
picking.
thing that says Player Unknown Battlegrounds on the tail of the plane.
Wow, this really does look like Rust. Holy shit.
You know we
Alright.
had it there before, right?
Never
Can I,
noticed.
let's go to Desert Town.
No, wait. I want to pick.
Let's go to Desert Town, the town of the desert.
But I want to pick.
Just Terry making a joke. It's all humorous.
Let's go military
This game
base.
didn't... Holy shit, we have like 90 frames.
Why do you want to
Good.
drop on the island?
I'm just kidding.
Can we even make it there?
This looks like a good place.
Right up ahead?
Blue?
Sure.
Gotcha.
When should we drop?
No.
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 Alright, so I have no shirt on, so I should be invisible.
Is that why you made yourself a black guy with red hair?
I mean, you could just buy a green bed sheet and hang it from the ceiling. The only thing is you need good light.
I'm virtually invisible in this environment.
Oh, someone else is dropping with us. Same spot. Ahead of us somehow.
How many people?
Looks like just one?
2.
No, there's 2.
2.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is how you count.
There's 94 other people dropping with us.
There's just 2 other guys. We just have to get guns first.
Of course.
The thing is we don't know where the fucking guns
Which
are.
I found guns.
I think I found either a helmet, it's a rock.
2 plus 2 is 4.
No sauce.
Yep.
Alright, Jamal, quack, quack, quack. He was
Oh,
ducking.
fuck, I love this rubber banding. Hot damn.
Got one of them.
Yes.
Rubber banding. Rubber banding. Please get me inside.
Someone say, yep, my strat, man. Let's go.
Someone find out where the other guy is. Found him.
Yeah.
Down.
2 plus 2 is 4.
Good. Good job,
Oh, yeah,
man.
they died instantly, so.
Did they have a weapon gun?
Probably not.
Jamal, you
One
can't see me.
did, but I fucking wrecked him immediately.
Sorry, Fred, I didn't see
Calm
that.
down. You're gonna kill me right off the bat after I spell this shit. I will find a way.
Good thing I fucking
Get you
found
removed
the
from
AR
working
in the
anywhere.
air.
And you're
Was
just gonna
just sitting there?
sit here playing Minecraft for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah, dude, that sounds like a great way to spend the rest of my life.
You know that's a lie.
Yeah, it
You'll
sounds
get
like
bored
a
after
great
like
way.
a fucking month and then be like, I want to die.
It's always kind of jarring seeing how tiny the fucking Mac 10 is.
Really wish you
Are there
could
no-
put some kind of an attachment on the thing.
No fucking
Bill just says
nothing.
fruit startled me.
I mean, that's kind of offensive, man. That's fucked up.
Well, I guess I have no other use for this 2x scope, so I guess I'll put it on this shotgun.
Or give it to me, you cocksucker.
I mean, I can do that
Hey,
as
does anyone-
well.
Does anyone have ammo for an M4? 16?
I don't have anything.
A. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Andar, are you on the ceiling?
Not on the ceiling of the Sol Village.
Jamal, there's a crowbar here.
I don't know how to get over to your side of the.
Look, I have a pistol.
I feel like
Is
a
that actually the
shotgun
pistol?
on this map
Yep.
is
Is it-
kind of bad.
Oh, dude, that's... Alright, so the zone's right next to us, so we're good.
1975 stream theme.
There's nothing here. I picked wrong, guys. I'm sorry.
Wow, Terrence, you fucked us. Oh, hey.
Well, now
Head
we know
over blue.
what this place.
Oh, hey, level 3
what's the-
backpack that was up here.
I'm gonna head to blue.
I'm going to the shit shack really quick. I'll be back in a second.
Andar. Here, take the 4 times.
You got an SMG or something? Or?
No.
An SMG
I
for
have,
the
a
14.
I have a compensator.
I have a
for the
lever
SMG.
rifle with a fucking SK-12.
Wait, I think I hear a car. One second. Are there new cars on this map, or
Yep.
is it all the
Yes.
same?
There's a Bronco. There's a van. There's a truck.
The Bronco
And
handles like a
the-
wet turd.
It is what it
Buggy.
is.
don't-
Hey, look, the van.
I like the
And the
hippie
buggy
van.
that has new textures. Bunch of shit shacks over here. Check that out.
So you entirely sure this isn't set in America?
You want me to turn on the black and white filter? I'll do it after this
Got a
live.
2-time scope for anybody that needs it.
Hey, so we're taking that hippie van, right? Like, that's a thing we're gonna do?
Yep.
Great.
I would assume so, anyway.
Someone play Slow Ride.
There is
really
a sawed-off
loudly.
shotgun in this house if somebody wants it.
Oh, please, I need a gun. I need some sort of weapon.
So I'm
to
guessing
fire.
we just have to get used to the rubber banding. That's just what we have to do here.
It's
We're on the test server.
on and off. It depends what server you join.
Look what I found. Fun lever action, guys.
Take your time to line up your shots. It's
Yeah,
not...
this is a new map.
God, I need a fucking gun.
Oh, my Mac 10.
Do you have ammo?
No, just the
yes.
Mac 10.
Here. Are you near me?
Can you hear me? No. You said there was a fucking shotgun on the floor, didn't you?
There's a sawed-off in here if somebody didn't take it.
Oh, I took
Jim
it
took
actually.
it.
Okay,
well.
whatever.
I didn't know Fruit was looking for that.
I fucking need a weapon. I
Here,
have an
I'll-
assault
I'll-
rifle and a
here,
pistol.
here. Where are you? There.
Thank you. Oh my god. Feel safe again. Thank you, Jamal.
Dog whale hunting.
Why is there a 4 times scope on this? I don't know.
It's 2 times.
Does anybody need 2 times? I have it 2 times.
Like it, let's go.
No. Okay.
God damn it! Why do I keep all tapping?
All right, everybody, let's go. Oh, this is a 6-person fucking car. Maybe we should get in the driver's seat, Andar.
I like specifically didn't.
Oh, this thing got some get up and go, huh?
It doesn't have any get up and go up the fucking hill.
Well, it's a fucking hippie van. What do you want?
Better
We're in the
transmission.
middle of redneck goddamn America right now.
All right, everybody, get your snacks and get back to the car in 5 minutes.
The
Fucking shoot
VW
you.
minibus.
God, fucking Volkswagen. Christ.
There's another sawed-off in here if somebody wants it.
A second. I found another sawed-off, so I'm good. There's a sickle
Somebody
here.
finds
So.
a primary weapon that they don't need, let me know.
Spending $3,000 on a graphics card seems kind of redundant. But hey, that's just
Redundant?
me.
That seems stupid.
It seems like such a fucking waste.
I mean, a gold-plated Titan.
Well, at least it's gold-plated.
All right, if anybody finds any 5.56 they don't need, let me know.
Wait, 5.56? Oh, did you find my assault rifle I dropped?
I guess I must have, yeah.
Yeah, I got rid of that because I didn't have any 5.56.
Oh, can you not climb on top of the van? That's upsetting. Beep beep. Beep 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 beep. I can't wait for the map set in Germany whenever we get to have a punch buggy.
Oh, I was almost on it. I want to go back up and try, but whatever. Shotgun.
Did you like that? I did the...
All right. Fruitsy Winkle. I guess we're going to yellow. Go to yellow and blue.
Vroom, vroom.
Is that where you guys want to go?
Yeah, I marked it. So
Look, what about that facility over there? That place seems safe.
It sure does. This place doesn't seem all that safe. Stop here. And
I like the
it is.
sound.
Someone reload.
Yeah, that was me. I didn't know you could
Okay.
actually reload in a car, too.
Yeah. Wait, is that a red shirt? Hold on, I'll be more invisible. Yeah.
The new meta is wearing the yellow suit in this map.
No, it's dressing like a Target employee. Khaki, man. You gotta put
Oh
on-
my god, let me just pick up the. Oh my Jesus.
Oh no, the blue helmet's gonna be really fucking
Does
bad.
anybody want a 2 times? I don't know if I've asked that yet. I've probably asked it like 13 times.
The 2 weapons that I have, I cannot put attachments on at all.
I feel like I keep asking that. Also, fucking revolver. I'm taking that. Someone can take my 2 times. Or my. I'm gonna stop talking.
Alright?
Terry, what about the 2
I
times?
feel like I'm having a stroke.
Are you not used to this? Oh, well, there he goes.
Hey, there's another sawed off.
Oh, there's already attachments on this SK12 I just picked up.
Yeah,
is
that'd
it
be
yours?
what I gave Fruit.
Okay.
I switched out for a double
Oh
barrel.
man, that was a triple rubber band there.
Same.
Fucking
Yeah.
racking up the Tony Hawk points, dude.
Well, think about it like this, Jamal. We're all getting rubber banding.
Yeah.
So, yeah, see right there.
I like how we're just leaving our fucking Volkswagen behind. It's like sacrilegious, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, hey.
it's so good. It's so fast. I think I can walk a little bit faster than it. Top speed.
They added new boots.
Oh, really?
Why am I getting
where's the
fucking
fucking
Borderlands
stairs?
feels from this?
Also, do you notice there's a new running animation for when you have a gun? Like, you hold it upwards.
Oh shit. We run just like in Friday now.
Yeah. Cool. Wait, you mean like run like Jason, where you run like you have a shit in your pants nonstop?
I mean,
Someone
you guys
died here.
Don't run like that.
What?
No reason.
Jason
I'm gonna go
runs-
around the other side, fruit.
Yeah, someone be careful. I found a fucking crate of a corpse crate.
Yep.
Yo, what the fuck is this thing? Oh, it's just a fucking pistol.
Yeah, there's definitely somebody that's been here, because I just found a gun that has attachments on it.
Ooh, what gun?
Ump.
Oh. But who would drop an ump?
I don't know,
What the
but I
fuck is
picked it
that?
up because I found a suppressor for it.
Wait, was that you dropping rounds on the ground?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anybody managed to find a choke?
Nope.
Negative. Oh, hey, I just found a choke.
No,
Just so.
pick that up for me.
El Polo es mío. Wonder what that means.
El Barto was hero.
Wonder how powerful this
Oh, I found a med kit.
new Magnum is.
Wait. I found a mini.
I thought I saw somebody. I don't know what to look for in this map yet, dude.
Little moving ants.
Move ants. You're looking for ants.
Oh shit! I found an anthill.
Oh, they're everywhere. What do I do?
Jamal, they're in my med
Vamos
kit.
a la playa.
Oh, my med kit's ruined. There's ants in it. What am I gonna do?
Turrets.
Hey, I found a choke.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'll take a choke. I need the choke. Give me the choke.
I already got it. Take it from Jamal.
Wait, did you drop the fucking SK-12 in favor of a pump shotgun?
Sure did. SK-12 doesn't do any damage, man.
It doesn't.
Listen, dude,
It's good if
I
you're just
swear. I swear by the SK-12, man.
And how many games have you won with it?
I killed 2 squads.
At once?
Yes.
Like with one shot?
Yes. I put an 8 times on that baby, and I just kind of fucking went to town.
And how many shots did you fire? 2 exactly?
I
Because you might
fired
have been
one
using
half
other
of a shell.
Oh, so you
I
probably used the
conserved
double
all
barrel.
of the pellets.
No, you didn't even shoot the shell. You just put the shell in your mouth and then bit on it and shot out like that scene in the Weird Al Yankovic movie.
I think there's a vehicle near us.
Yes, it's the van from earlier.
Do you guys have that?
No, I was making a joke.
Yeah, vehicle northwest.
Northwest? Driving or? Dumb question,
yeah,
I
he's on the
know.
road.
Okay.
Sounded like
probably
there was
fine.
one closer to me, too.
He's coming towards us. In between us.
I hear it coming. Other side. Terry.
Good shot.
Fuck. They stopped.
They bailed. They're on foot. One guy is running into the warehouse.
I sort of figured they would. I'll tell. Yep.
I'm getting hit.
He's down. He's dead. So the other guy's in the warehouse then. Jamal, you ready to go in?
No, I'm just gonna climb this instead.
And are you actually shooting him or?
He got away in a fucking buggy.
I just heard a fucking car driving away, so I'm like, what the fuck?
He
Well,
was
good news, guys.
running and far, so I was trying to lead the shots.
Alright, let's get the fuck out of here. Because we actually do need to get
Yeah,
the
we
fuck
gotta get going.
Yeah, give me a minute. I gotta fucking run all the way down.
What the hell is a Winchester. Oh, shit. Alright, we're getting the fucking vehicle.
Vehicle.
Hey, look.
That guy have
Is
any
this
good
the same
shit?
one?
No.
We already looted him.
Well, he has a Winchester.
Did you guys leave anything or no?
Not much.
No.
Just like some extra
There's-
ammo.
Oh, ammo, I'm going for it.
Or a shotgun. We're running out of time, by the way. Like,
Yeah,
this thing's not very fast.
Yeah, Tom.
Alright, let's see how fast this thing goes on, like, straight flat road.
Go blue.
Alright.
Go blue. Go green. Go green. Something about one of these fucking Volkswagen piece of shit vans on its side that freaks me out slightly, just slightly. But...
They go behind us.
Oh shit, are we having a chase scene with them? Oh no.
Fuck.
I don't want to fucking shoot because I gotta hit you. I got a lot of
I've got a
bullets. So I
bike
can
helmet
fucking
on.
unload.
We all popped out of the car. Like, you know what? Maybe not.
I was like, I'm just gonna hold on, man. If this thing's fucking rubber banding like this, it doesn't matter where the fuck I aim, I'm gonna hit someone.
Don't shoot anyone.
Like, even if I'm aiming straight, it's gonna rubber band and the bullets will be behind me.
You just okay, I thought that was my phone. Oh no.
Oh, look, another van. If this one gets stuck, we can go for that
Oh, we
one.
have no gas.
Oh, we actually ran out of gas.
Oh, that's a first.
Oh,
How
shit.
convenient.
Right? What a good fucking time.
Alright, who hasn't driven the van yet?
I haven't.
Okay, have fun. You can already feel it, can't you?
Oh god, I want to die.
You should use nitro.
Oh, shit.
Hello! Where is this
Left
coming
side,
from?
left side,
Worry
left
about it. Here we go.
Left side? No, it's the right side. Oh, fuck.
No, get back in.
No.
Terry, you fucked me!
I did. I fucked all of you guys.
God damn it!
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's why I died so fast. You fucking blew.
Yeah, he blew it up.
I want to see the kill cam on that. Holy
Oh,
fuck.
I thought it was gonna work. Where the fuck were they?
I
They were
just
to
want
our
to see
left.
us
They were
fucking
right.
flipping.
They were to our right.
Or, sorry, my left. I was looking left, sorry.
His
I'm looking
username was
behind the vehicle.
Auschwitz
They're on my
guard.
left.
The kill cam isn't even loading properly.
It does that. Ugh.
That was fucking terrible.
God damn.
I mean, fuck.
We're the best.
Guys are fucking bad.
Fuck you. What would you have done?
I got out and I shot the fucking guy. That's what
I
I,
tried.
did.
Got out and died.
Oh, my game just crashed.
Fucking bullet magnets.
Yeah, well, yeah, Andar, when you're on the fucking half that's being shot, yeah, you tend to take a lot of bullets.
We were taking the bullets for you.
We really were.
It was fucking horrible, man.
I got out to try to do something and instead I just got shot the fuck up.
It went so fucking poorly. Jesus.
It just went from like, hey, this is going really well for us, to, oh, wait, never mind.
Hey,
This is
look,
Pubg.
I still love the fact that we went from, hey, look, another van, to just... Did you see the kill cam? Fucking, we were just flipping around. For its fucking model. Any day now, the game connection, the game capture will load. Any day now. Why is this?
Hey,
not
so
loading?
Terry, good news.
Mm.
Yeah.
They're adding a new thing to Warhammer that I think you'll like.
What are they adding?
It's a fuck around mode.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a mode where you can change any sort of aspect of something, including entity size, the amount of units in there, gravity on the unit.
Gravity?
Yeah, so when they showed an example of just hitting elves and they fly off into space. And like
That
you
sounds
can
good.
change all their stats and just
Oh, man. Andar.
Hey guys, Waz sent us a picture of us that last game.
Oh, sorry. I fucking clicked on ready. The button went yellow, and then it just fucking sat there.
Wait, did my game crash or is it? Oh, we're going in. Okay.
I'm stuck in overlay right now, so.
That was fucking so stupid.
This is funny to us.
Oh, and my game crashed.
Oh.
Test
we'll leave.
servers are stable. Stable.
Gemma must have crashed like so soon
It's a
because
fucking
he's not even
test server.
in the fucking.
Yeah.
That
not
would
even our
explain if
squad.
I'm crashing.
Okay, neither
Not
is
the
Fruit.
squad?
It's just Terry to be in the squad.
No, maybe you guys, if anybody's in there, leave.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go ahead and
I'm-
preemptively Alt F4 out of the game.
It's not a bad idea.
Oh, I wanted to get a screenshot of that, but I can't. I go to close out of the game, and then we're just stuck on the main menu, and we're all looking different directions. It was quite hilarious. Are you loading up your gun to shoot yourself? An error occurred while updating PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds test server app running.
Just if you want to be a good little tester, send the error report. If not, fuck it, whatever.
Oh, I didn't even get an error report.
Just understand that sending the error report
Takes a
like
very long time.
takes like a full minute, which realistically is not that bad.
Hey, Waz.
No, it takes longer than a minute.
Waz says, I'm playing For Honor because I like games that make me consider murder. You should be friends with Grimhood because he won't shut up about For Honor. He bought me it, and now he's trying to guilt trip me to play it, and I told him no, it's an Andar night. He'll shoot me if I don't play with him.
You're goddamn right, it will.
Like last Andar night,
That's your fucking guys' fault.
it's not my fucking
Jesus,
fault.
Jam, why the fuck did you not wake up? Holy shit.
I told you, get
What
me to
the
call my
fuck?
bitch ass.
Why
And guess who I
did you-
never got a phone call from?
Why
Never
did
got
you
a
get
phone
up?
call from
Why
at all.
didn't you get up? What the fuck?
Why are you sleeping?
Guys, please stop yelling.
What is this?
Oh my god, get the fuck out of there! Holy shit!
Time to take a piece.
I feel like we're
Please
all
don't.
making references to different fucking movies right now, and I don't know what to do. I
Mine's
don't know.
considered a movie.
Time to take a piss.
Why aren't you jumping on me?
Oh, give me a second.
I might do it later.
Later, what do you mean later?
What the fuck are you talking about?
The classic video, Mario takes a piss.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, that's stupid shit.
Time
Stupid
to
shit that
take
you
a
know.
piece.
All right, fruit.
I get to pick?
Dropping.
Military base, let's go.
Well, that would be up here. I don't know if we're gonna go over that way though. I think we're coming.
We're right
over
on
here.
top of it right now, let's jump.
We could.
Alright, guys, to just make sure you're looking up.
And my game crashed.
Nice.
You guys go ahead and jump without me. I'll see if I can meet up with you later.
Wanna just wait till the end?
You can. It's your turn to pick.
How about this? We'll go pretty close to the end. We'll go to like the edge of
Monte Nuevo.
yeah, Monte Nuevo. We'll go to like the outskirts, like right around here or
I like
something.
that brand of salsa.
Jamal, please.
There's also here.
There's actually a brand of salsa named that.
Smile, sweet, sadistic, sister.
You did it in the wrong order, you
surprise,
fuck
motherfucker.
boy.
I mean, why do you know the order?
Shut up. Oh, fuck, I didn't jump.
Oh fuck, I'm going the wrong way.
Oh, good. My game is crashing every time I launch it now.
Don't worry, there's only 4 other AFK.
No,
Yeah,
kill 'em all.
yep. Well, Terry, maybe they're waiting for their friends too.
Maybe.
Would you take advantage of that?
Yes.
Because in a sense, you'd be taking advantage of yourself, metaphorically. Surprise, fucker.
The surprise cockbags? Jeez.
Surprise, cockbags.
Surprise,
Cockbags.
cockbags. That's
Remember when
the
Jamal
PG
had that in one of
version.
his videos, and then he's like, hey, this is my Mind Stick video.
Yeah. Hey, an SKS.
Hey, level 3 helmet.
I have nothing.
I have nothing left to live
I look like
for.
I look like 50 Cent from 50 Cent Bulletproof.
Damn.
Like, Hold on. Except now I'm wearing a helmet, so now I don't look like 50 Cent anymore. Now I look like 50 Cent's retarded brother.
Let me fucking validate my files again.
49 cent.
I'm 37 cents.
That was good. That was good shit.
You sound like fucking. You sound like Roger Rabbit.
Oh.
I got us a vehicle.
I'm 37 cents. God damn it. Guys, just fucking leave me behind. I'm gonna go take a piss.
Terry deflates the threequel.
Alright, well, we have a car. I guess really good. Oh, hey, look, it's Ron Perlman.
Hello.
Let me go on it.
Are you talking about Rust?
Let's go. Bang, bang! Ross Payday.
Oh, I thought you just died.
By the way, why aren't we taking the car?
I'm just looting around.
I probably should actually get another weapon. I only have one double-barreled shotgun. And it's a sawed-off.
Andrew's got his Tommy gun.
God, the best weapon.
Level 2 helmet here on my feet. Oh, two of them.
There's like 3 in that place, by the way. And that's a mini 14.
Hey, finally found a backpack. Goddamn.
There's also a bunch of level 2 backpacks.
Where'd you say the hell? Oh, hey, Lil.
You should be able to find it fairly easily.
Yeah, that building.
Man, sweet! So booster.
You're still doing it in the wrong order.
Sister!
Sublime. That's all I got. Come on, that was top tier, man.
I'm in a bag.
House.
What?
Hey, Andor, what's your favorite show? Andor, what are you paying a mortgage off of?
House.
What you building in Minecraft?
Nothing. Oh, God. Oh, shit. Is that the Bad Man?
I like that Midnight Rider song.
We're the Midnight Riders.
You know what's great? Having a gun where all 3 of my guns take 45.
Well, in theory, you only need one kind of ammo then.
I know, it's great.
So are we heading towards these gunshots? Because I am.
Yes.
I love this map, dude. This place is cool. I love, like, sort of old desert towns.
The Why is Fallout in New Vegas your least favorite one?
It's not my least favorite one. I just hate the circle jerk around it.
Why?
Gemma, you pass the level 2 vest if you don't have one. On the sandbags.
Oh,
Again, like,
apparently the sandbags are a loot spawn.
That's weird, but okay.
Wait, they are? But yeah, like, again, I like Fallout New Vegas. I just hate the fact that it's sort of like when people say, oh man, Morrowind is the best Elder Scrolls game.
But it is.
It's like, please, stop.
Okay,
Stop.
I don't
Get some
see-
help. Yeah, combat pants. Yeah, I need some pants. It's me, Crib Def.
Oh.
It's me, 37 cents.
I'm 37 cents. This is my new rap single. Shoot him in the butt.
I do sound like Mike Tyson.
No reason.
This is what I just sound like. I just talk like this. Don't. Alright, where the fuck are those gunshots coming from? Seriously.
I can already see it now. Fucking 37 Cent is gonna be your new go-to character for a lot of things.
Well, any sort of rap-related joke, I guess I'll have to use it now. I don't know.
You
We'll
should just
figure
keep
it out.
increasing it by 1 cent each time.
My name's 32 Cent.
My name's 39 Cent.
My name... Okay, what are you shooting
Oh, guy in the
at?
building to the southeast, top floor, the one with the water tank on it.
Shit. Sorry, I missed. Someone say crib def, though?
Don't mention
I think-
Curb Def.
I think I see him. Hold on, can I get a shot? No, probably not.
You're trying to
He's
shoot
still...
a double-barreled shotgun from over there?
I'm shooting the mini.
Knocked him out.
Good
Is he on
job.
the roof?
Yeah.
Nice.
He
He
only
was
got
shooting
knocked
at a
out.
guy too in the east.
Also, the zone's coming. We gotta get the fuck out of here.
Oh shit.
We're not noob. We can't just siphon other people's souls to survive. So I will do one thing, because I don't want this guy to be alive still. Andar, don't go up to the top floor yet. I'm about to fucking grenade it. Good job, Andar.
Woo!
Is he dead, or...?
Yeah, I got 2 kills.
Okay.
Thank God I jumped through the fucking building though.
Did you smile? Were you sweet?
Oh, I would have won.
Why?
Oh, because they... Oh, there's an AKM.
Yeah, I don't need
Oh,
it,
no.
so I'm not
With
taking
like
it.
5 billion rounds, too. We need to get the fuck out. And are you trying to do
yeah,
a
I'm gonna
motorcycle?
take this.
Andar is a motorcycle, what are you talking about?
I always sort of assumed. I was never sure, but I always sort of would guess.
Who took that compensator for fucking AR?
Not me.
I have one, but I think I found it earlier.
There's
No, I have
this
2.
guy.
Never mind. Andar, let's go. Come on, here, I'll give it to you. We gotta get going. Seriously.
Fuck it, I guess I can...
There.
Yeah, drop it there.
Wait, why did I drop the shotgun bullet loops?
And
Actually
why did
need
you drop
this.
the 2x scope? I'll take
I
it
don't know.
anyways, but
I don't need it anymore.
thanks.
Andar, I have a wife now.
Don't talk to me or my wife's kids ever again.
My wife's kids? That sounds weird. That's like if someone said a crop farm.
A crap farm?
Yeah.
Kinda wish I had a scope, but I don't.
Kinda wish I had a suck, but I don't. It's me, 57.
The amount keeps changing every time.
It's me.
Hold on, can I try?
$1
gonna test something.
22 cents.
I'm gonna test something. Don't go towards that propane tank. I want to see if it explodes.
Probably not.
Does
If
it?
it has a delayed reaction, I will fucking kill you.
It just kills us all in
The
the
hippie truck off to the east.
driving.
No, it's parked on the side.
Don't trust it. It's gotta be a setup.
I don't trust like that.
I don't trust like that. Get out! I don't trust
Oh,
like
I think it's in the zone anyways, so...
That's the thing. They left it like right on the exact edge, so that if we get it, they're gonna like blow it up. There's actually a rocket launcher on this map. They've somehow found it.
Oh, I was getting so confused. I was like, why does it say Sticks the Goblin is that mountain?
I like how Terry's not dead yet. Someone's still slowly killing. Let's fucking drive out of here.
It's style.
All right, Andrew, you can drive this shit machine. I'm really having a good time on my world tour.
This is 37 cents tour bus.
With my friend.
With
with
my
my
band
friend-
manager and my wife.
This is the guy driving right now. He's my dear friend. Vanilla.
Extract.
and my wife. Her name is Reenie.
Does that make Terry like the Tupac hologram or some shit?
Oh, it's a good thing we took this vehicle.
Oh.
Wow.
No, man, my friend who's dying out there right
Oh
now.
my god, that's I think the furthest away from a zone we've ever been.
My favorite rapper, Tapo.
Tap.
Okay, fuck.
It's my favorite rapper, Nintendo Switch dock.
It's my favorite rapper, Bazinga Young Sheldon. This is cool, man.
We would have had our other friend rapper here, but he went out with friends instead. Rest in peace,
Yeah.
Snickdig.
Snick.
Okay. Oh, straight ahead.
Hello. Oh, Terry, you made it. You're not dead yet, by the way.
Fucking way to go, Fruit.
I didn't. There's a guy in front of us. I didn't even fucking know.
Yes. Oh, they're shooting bad.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck.
I really feel like we're getting into like a firefight on New Vegas or some shit.
Yeah, you mean that game you've never played?
I played Fallout New Vegas. I just never beat it.
How far'd you
One
get?
sec.
Please.
One sec. You have time. I have no health though. That's why I'm helping me up instead of you.
Is there a car behind us?
No, that's your fucking smoke grenade.
Thank you. Oh god, they have a new effect for when you get picked up. That's... God! Fucking... Sucks.
I really wish I had
So
some sort of
I probably shouldn't have been fucking engaged these guys, honestly.
Why are we fighting right now? Why aren't we just driving?
I'm going for the flanking maneuver.
Okay, good luck. Don't die or something. I don't even... I said bandage up.
Oh my god, I'm fucking pinned down here.
I wonder if they know.
There's like 5 of them, dude. There's only 3 of us. We're fucked.
Their squad is 17.
Feels like it. To be perfectly honest with you. Alright, Andrew, are you distracting him?
Yeah.
There's at least 37 whole pennies there.
Alright, I'm doing something stupid.
Give me mobile cover. What was that idea?
I'm drawing their fire. They can't hit me if I'm in a weird angle.
Meanwhile, you got me,
Alright.
Captain fucking... I'm ultra pinned down here.
Jesus.
Fuck! Fuck! Oh, both people rushed me at the same time.
There's fucking so many people there.
I'm dead.
They all have like fucking spot on aim too, so I can't do shit. Fuck it. I'm skipping this fucking place. Alright, so I guess we've learned, fuck this place.
Okay, so on top of my body is one guy, or possibly 2, just so you know, Jamal. And Fruit.
I wish I could
I'm
ladder.
I'm leaving this fucking shithole.
So just watch your shit, Jamal, because there was
Alright, Jamal, I'm going from the
they're
side.
high gear and they took all my shit, so.
Really They're...
But I did kill 2 of them, so.
Sniping's a good job, mate.
Wait, did you actually kill them, or did you just down them?
No, I actually killed 2 of them, but there's fucking at least 2 more in a different squad that came after me, so.
I mean, I'm gonna have to leave because the zone's gonna catch up to me here soon.
I'm staying up fighting.
Well, Jamal, you...
I think this might
It's like I said before. I can't get a good shot on him.
Oh my
They have
god!
Yeah,
That's my AK.
God damn it, Andar. I got killed by Luke Rockhold.
That's probably the guy who killed me.
Gotta just keep going.
Kill me, put me out of my misery.
Chug a soda to run faster.
Okay, my thing's all fucked up. It's... Okay, there we go.
Oh shit, they changed the sound for red zones.
Yeah, it's more terrifying now.
Wow, you guys.
So I do regret kind of engaging the fucking...
Yeah, this is 110% your fault, Andar.
I'll take the
Sure,
money
it's
for
not
this.
fucking mine.
No.
No.
Andar wanted to fight an uphill battle.
The guy was like 200 fucking meters, and I had
I
the
don't-
2 times
That's
scope.
why I'm like, who the fuck are you shooting at? That's why I'm just like, wait,
we were
what are we
basically
stopping?
the enemies in like a tower defense game.
Well, you always were a kidder.
Wait, did I just put my seatbelt on?
Gotta
It's
be
actually
safe.
pretty high. Remember, safety is more important.
Crash into something at full speed. If you take damage, then obviously it's you didn't.
I'm imagining like Grand Theft Auto 4, like you fly out of the windshield physics. Remember that time,
Jeez.
Andar, that you flung out so far you went to the other side of the map
Yeah.
whenever I was using the mod?
Have I ever told you guys about quantum physics?
Oh no.
Oh shit, is that truck drivable?
I don't know.
It looked like it was all fully intact.
Alright, this probably isn't a bad idea what I'm doing.
Is it?
I don't know, we'll find out.
This is leaked footage of the new Breath of the Wild DLC.
God, he's like on the fucking moon. Oh my god, trees.
Look at me, this handle's like a wet piece of shit.
Handles like a true American car, Andar.
Right now it feels like we're just in the regular ass Battlegrounds map.
Oh
Hey,
shit.
there's a dude! Fucking national predator.
Fucking
Oh,
Oh, they're going
down.
after the thing.
This is gonna be really awesome if something happens.
This feels like Point fucking Break.
Fuck you!
Are you really that all you fucking have?
Oh! That was fucking beautiful! Jamal, timestamp, go back and clip that. Oh my god.
1 minute or 1 hour, 16 minutes.
That was so good. Holy shit. It would have been better if you like went under his tire and flipped him while you were like
Do you have any good
jumping.
shit?
That would have been fucking
Wait,
awesome.
It's another car.
Is his friend coming?
Oh fuck.
Friggin' Dave, dude. He drowned.
Not friggin' Dave.
What the fuck is this? What the
It's a
fuck?
really shiny rock texture.
Inching towards the edge.
Andar, you know mistakes?
What? He's up top.
He's up top.
Yep.
No.
Oh.
He's right in
just
front of
like-
me.
Fucking box.
Shoots the fucking barrier twice.
I fucking lagged. Oh shit, that was cool though.
Okay, that's what I died. I want to see which one of these two fucking killed me, or if it was a third.
Oh my god, that was. Ah, fuck. I fucking should have been in first person for that. My heart's fucking racing right now.
I still
Jesus
love
that
the
was
fact
good.
that, like,
Oh, motherfucker, one more bullet, I would have killed the guy.
you were
Son of a
reloading
bitch.
so fast just to get that last shot off. I heard you just, like...
Wait, I only got 3 kills? I thought I killed 2 more earlier than that.
Terry, you look like fucking actual Bob Ross right now.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on, match is still in what? Match is not still in progress. What the fuck?
Don't hit join. Don't hit join.
Oh, give me a second. I accidentally hit join. I tried to cancel, but I clicked the first button.
Oh, man. Oh.
So who wants to play some Galgun later?
Some Galaga?
No, Galgun.
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 Galgun?
Yeah, look it up. Do you just have the words Galgun?
Galgun.
No, G-U-N.
Oh. What's gun gone?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I fucking loaded and some dude's just staring at me and he's not moving.
Sounds like my last trip to the gym.
Donkey punch.
I went to school with somebody that looks just like that.
Like me
Oh
or Terry?
yeah, pump those irons.
Hold on.
Where are the weapons located here?
I have no fucking idea.
Hey Terry, you ever
I don't
see one of
think
those
they're
fisting
here
videos?
Oh man. He's fisting you. What is happening?
Dude.
Alright. Andar, your turn. Unless you guys want to do all random, all mid.
Did I ever
Let's
get
just
a
look
chance
at
to
it.
pick yet? I don't remember if I did or not.
Yeah, you did.
Oh.
Second. No, then Andar fucking took. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, that channel's right here.
So we're doing ARAM or Andar?
Andar took it away from you. Pick somewhere that he'll die first.
Where's the shooting range?
Okay, guys, let's go to Orange.
Oh, good idea. Where we going, Jamal?
Let's shoot for
Los
here.
Leones. Prison.
Okay, now.
I wanted to drop in a town, but I realized it's probably a very bad idea.
Oh, obviously.
I mean, people clearly do it and win, so...
I can't wait until they make... I want to be able to, like, explore the actual fucking map. One of these days, you know?
We will as time goes on, once it comes out.
Well, I want, like, custom games to be a thing for everybody.
No.
Only popular
Only-
YouTube and streamers get to use access to it.
Yeah, otherwise you could cheat or something, I don't know.
And
Oh, God,
I'm
I'm so-
free. Free ballin'.
And I'm 50 Cent. I don't like how the skin...
And I'm already hurt. I can't get down. I'm stuck up here.
Oh, fuck.
Good. Fucking great. Oh, my ankles!
It didn't even do that much.
Ooh, fuck this. I'll take the revolver.
Ooh.
Ooh, I'm a machete.
Anyone finds a scope, let me know. I have car 98.
Okay.
Level 2 Vester.
Ooh, low to vest? Sweet, I actually can... That's the only thing that makes you look like 50 Cent.
I found 2 fucking quick draw sniper rifle mags, but I can't use them.
Hey, I already found us a Volkswagen.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Level 2 backpack here too. Fruit.
Oh. Yes. The backpack. I'm not gonna lie, this map reminds me of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, like the first level where you're like in Africa. And then like Sundowner shows up and then cuts a bunch of guys in half. And then it starts playing his theme song. It's like
Rules of nature.
no, that's not his theme song, but you're close. You're doing okay. You're doing
Oh
okay.
no, I was referencing that because I just drove my Volkswagen through a fence.
Oh,
I hit a bunch of children.
We've been getting pretty lucky in that zone.
I mean, except for the last match, you didn't get to see that.
I noticed that you guys had to, like, run across the entire fucking map.
The entirety of it.
I mean, you saw me driving there at the end. I had to go really fucking far.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, like, yeah. I wish the cars in this map weren't so shit, but
If
whatever.
anybody finds any SMG parts, let me know. Hey, look, another fucking minivan.
We should
Oh.
each get our own individual vehicle.
Listen to the brakes on this thing.
God, they sound like shit.
Yeah,
Let's
just to
do that.
reiterate, if someone finds a scope, give it to me, please.
Okay, noob. No, I can't. You're actually here today, so. So, do we want the van or do we want the fucking pickup truck?
I vote pickup truck, honestly.
We haven't driven the pickup truck yet. I feel like the van would give us more cover, but
I would appreciate the new Dodge Wrangler, actually. I have been watching a lot of The Walking Dead. The new Ford Fusion.
Oh, I found a 4x scope. Okay, if anything finds bigger than a 4x.
This is a fucking
Oh, I found it.
auction now.
Andar, I found a 15x scope. Is that good?
Yes.
There is exactly nothing on this roof.
Yeah, I know. I fucking landed there.
I mean, I don't know why there would be anything.
Was
on
there
this
stuff on this?
No.
That is lame.
Yeah, it fucking
Oh,
sucked because I
shit.
landed on it and there wasn't any shit on it.
Roof. Can't drive the fucking forklift. You
Oh, by the way, Jimmel, the reticles on the scopes now are different for sniper rifles.
Ooh.
4x.
I thought something looked weird about that SKS I was using. Oh, wait, actually, no. What am I talking about? I never got a scope. Calm down there, 37 cent.
Hey man, I just want to fix up my career.
I just want to get back on my feet.
Times have been tough for me recently, ever since I released my newest album.
We
So I
were
guess we're
comparing
gonna start going
everybody
into
to
the town?
various rappers. Yeah, might as well.
Andar's Vanilla Extract.
Yeah, Andrew's vanilla extract. You were, what did we say was tip pick or something?
Yeah, it's Topo.
Tupperware. It's Tupperware.
Green, do you guys have something else in mind?
There's like nothing over there though. Let's just make our way up through here. There's lots of shit we can check there.
Well, it's going on the coast, actually.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could check
What's
this out.
happening?
I don't know why we got the vehicle. We could just go on foot.
We could.
But we're not a vehicle.
The truck
fine,
sounds
man.
really cool, though. A little too backpack.
I mean, if we're just gonna go cruising around, we should have just taken the Volkswagen.
Yeah, but the
Yeah, but then
Truck
people
is
punch
cooler.
each other when they see us.
I was about to say something really stupid, and then I remembered, wait a second, that's what this game is. I was about to say,
What?
wait a second, we've been to this building already.
Wait, weren't we just here when we died horribly?
it's mine.
Yeah, actually, we were. This is exactly where we were.
No.
No, this is actually exactly where
Wait,
we
no,
were last
no,
time.
this is a different place.
Actually,
This is completely different.
yeah, it's different, but the hill and the RV on the side's the same.
Yeah,
It
this
was
is...
like I was able to
it
flank
looks
from the left. I
copy-pasted.
can't right now.
Well, as long as
this
it's
is
copy-pasted.
definitely copy-pasted. This is a fucking generic-ass Skyrim dungeon.
How did you guys fucking walk past?
What's happening?
Did we walk past someone?
Yes, I fucking like almost shit myself.
I heard a pop, and then it's like 2 fucking people are dead. What happened?
Well, good job, Andar.
Didn't even
The
know.
motherfucker right beside me. Like,
I don't think I ever saw the dude. I know you're gonna be like, well, fucking obviously.
Well, Andar, we would have said something if we saw anyone.
Dummy.
I think he disconnected or something because like he was just standing there. I would have died. But I could still like shit my pants over.
I hate to say it, people in this game have very bad reaction time.
Like us.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. He was standing up against the wall, standing still, staring at me.
He was probably jacking off.
Pretty sure he got disconnected.
Yeah, this place has been looted. We probably shouldn't be on the edge. This is not a good place to be, I would imagine.
Let's keep going through it.
Wow, there's lots of.
There's lots of things
Person.
everywhere.
Behind you! Jamal!
Guys, they're...
Oh shit.
Shots fired, 150.
Jamal, behind you!
I see it, I see it, I see it.
175.
Of course, all I have is a shotgun and a revolver, so...
Well,
There's a guy over by me, too.
this... You know,
Can we just leave?
Fruit, I have a med kit.
Why didn't we, like... Also, there's a guy coming towards you guys right now.
One of these days I'll find an actual weapon.
So wait, why are we not
Where's the
going
guy
around
who's
the
right fucking beside me?
Why aren't we going around the coast again exactly? That wasn't me, by the way, so... Wait, there's a guy. He's looking at me. So, if you want to know, I'm staring right at him right now. He's right across Jamal.
I
So
know.
I see him. He's by the little... Yep, there he's going. Thank you.
Damn, dude, I like this fucking revolver.
Is it good?
I just one-dinged the dude.
Well, I did
Yeah,
fucking...
you
bring
need
it.
something to heal up?
Yeah, possible.
Are we in the same building?
No, I'm across from you right now.
Okay.
And I don't want to stand up.
My pants in my life!
There, okay, I see him. He's...
Fuck,
Yeah,
I'm down.
Southwest.
Guys, they're right outside the door. And or below
coming
you. He's going in yours. Right around there. Get him! Nice! He's going around the corner. Under you, Andar.
He's
Here
coming
he
back
comes.
on my side.
Yes!
Got him.
I need
Someone please
medkit.
pick me up.
Oh god, please let me loot medkit. Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna loot this dude for a gun. Oh shit.
I'm going inside.
Yeah, fuck this. Oh fuck.
You alright, Jimmy?
He's by the truck. Got him.
Thanks,
Nice.
Andar. So he's dead. That's their entire group gone.
Yeah, he died right away. Woo!
Sorry,
Sorry, I
using
looked
that
at him and I fucking scoped in and it immediately goes to Terry's head on the ground. I was like, what the fuck?
And I picked up a bullet loops for you.
Thanks.
I
Oh,
could
I dropped
actually
the
use
purple.
some...
I just dropped the revolver.
Oh, bullet loops for that. Never mind.
So we need to heal up now. We should... No, we don't have to get moving. I was gonna say, I forgot we were actually in the zone. Dude, fuck this place.
Seriously.
To be fair, if we can get a good position, we can actually work. We can actually work.
Oh, I think we had a good position there.
This building is relatively fortified.
Are we going to stay there?
Why not? Fuck it.
Jim, I'm coming to you, so if you had any good shit.
Well,
There's not really much
probably
there.
should.
Just shotgun attachments and shit like that.
I could actually use those.
Honestly, why don't we just chill out here for now and then see what happens next zone? We just reload a shotgun.
Me.
Okay.
Oh, I've already got a shotgun. I'm a fucking...
I should probably mention when you
Did
reload.
you
a shotgun.
honestly leave one fucking 7.62 there, Jamal?
Oh, I don't
Where'd
have
you put the
anything.
bullet loops?
I have them on me.
Oh, okay.
So Jamal, what ammo does the revolver use?
45.
Can you drop him?
Yeah, here.
Where's the guy that you killed behind the wall here?
I'm looting him right now.
Oh, okay. Anything good?
A few things.
Like any sort of like pills or something?
No, no utility at all.
These police vest is less damage than mine, so I'll fucking take it.
Police.
Police.
Burrow Tim!
Well, we survived, everyone. Good job. Thank you, everyone.
Damn, if anyone has a sniper rifle that takes a mag, I got an extended quick draw mag.
I'll take that because I only got a quick draw.
This area reminds me of Serious Sam. Hey, Terry, you want to play Serious Sam again?
No.
It was fun the first time, but goddamn, that game did not age well.
I don't even think it was very fun the first time.
Look, we played it with...
I'm not really a fan of the whole fucking emblem things and Serious Sam is. I know
Jamal,
it's not.
look. Jamal, there's a Jesus in a can.
A Jesus
It's-
in a can?
In a can.
Well, I know you were trying to make a point, Andar, and I'm sorry, but your points aren't valid here. We don't want them.
Look, Jesus in a can.
It is a Jesus in a can.
It's
I
a
never
can,
liked
so-
those kinds of games. I don't know. They were-
I think they're fun. Again, like, you do have
Just,
this...
it's too much of the same thing. Just fucking saying,
Yeah.
like, just hold
Well,
down.
yeah, but
Keep shooting.
if they give you cool weapons, it can be fun, but most of the time it's just the same shit.
Yeah, you're just fucking like running in circles and shooting. That's the same thing until it fucking dies, and over and over and over again. You just I'm running around in circles, shooting.
That's why I didn't like the Division.
I thought the Division was supposed to be like Borderlands.
That's one of the reasons why I didn't really like
You
Borderlands.
guys notice how
I just wanted to
your
finish it.
camera is directly over your head now, not like...
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
fucking-
be
Oh.
what's the word?
Or Death.
I'm gonna take a fucking gamble and
Don't.
climb up this level 2 helmet.
Bye, Andar.
Coming with you, Matt Jammel.
Alright.
Yeah, we gotta start heading into the city here. As much as I hate going into the city.
This is a really bad
Shots
fucking
fired
idea.
southeast.
Hey, think of it like
Okay.
we're beta testing.
Far.
We're helping out.
Double barrel if anybody wants it.
I'm fine.
Tactical pussy.
10 pounds of tactical pussy and ass. We're talking fucking well shooting at the same time. The recoil will feel better than ever.
Ask me, I just got shot in the ass.
Any quick draw mag and extended mag.
So many fucking corners to check.
Yeah.
So we should probably avoid this place for future reference.
Terry, I'll take that 7.62 if you don't use it.
Sure. I was going to pick it up for you guys anyway.
Thanks.
Danny Phantom.
Actually, this kind of reminds me of
Danny
like
Phantom.
that zombie game that zombie game we never finished. One that I
Dying
really
Light.
like. Yeah, Dying Light.
I'm willing to go back and play that. It's just Noob's a fucking loser.
I would love to play Dying Light with you guys.
I mean, fuck, if Noob's gonna continue hanging out with his fucking my friends from work.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd rather go cosplay bowling than play games with you guys.
what do you mean constantly bully? What the fuck are you talking about?
Cosmic bowling, dude.
Just constant bullying.
Yeah, that's.
Well,
I mean, that's what we do to
It,
Noob.
it,
So.
it is, but, you know.
Jamal, do you not like bowling?
I love bowling.
Hey, Nico, let's go bowling.
Listen, the last like 3 years of my life, if it is a Tuesday and or Friday, if you do not show up for Andar night games, you get shunned. Which is why you guys gave me shit for sleeping last night, or last on Tuesday.
You never showed
Well,
me.
no, we
Angry
were giving you
shit.
shit because you were giving somebody else shit for doing it. There's 556 over here if anybody wants it. I'll pick it up for you.
Wait, Jamal, you never shunned me for missing Andar Night.
It's because you're not really in the main group of Andar nights. Because
Whoa.
Andar nights stems from Counter-Strike nights.
Yeah, I know, that's the fucking joke, Jamal.
There's a shit. Does anybody actually need 556?
I'll take it if you need it. If you don't have it,
I don't need any of it.
I'll take it.
No.
Yeah,
There you
might
go.
want to start coming down soon.
Yeah, hold on, I'm just checking everything.
Hey, Jerry.
Leave me alone.
Let me out.
Close. I'm getting really close. It's happening.
Good. How long has it been since your last release?
Are you talking like
Days.
bowel movement or what? Else we should probably get going.
Oh!
Oh, Larry, there's Andar's release.
What's wrong, Andar?
Andar, did you finally let it all out?
Twist in show.
You know, Andor, just think about something. There's gonna be a point in your life right before you die where you will never hear "What's wrong, Andor?" ever again.
No, you'll fucking whisper in your ear just as you're dying. Like, you will go to extreme lengths to get the fuck away from him as you die.
There's
Just
a
for him to, like,
buggy, or a fucking
yeah, there's a fan.
hippie van.
Want to take it?
I gotta work on my fucking Andar jokes, but I don't hang out with Andar enough to know what to fucking joke about him with.
Okay, here's step
Let's
number one.
go on foot. I got good gear. I don't want to risk losing it all because we took the fucking van.
Step
Yeah.
number one to Andor jokes. Anytime he sighs, say "What's wrong, Andor?"
What's wrong, Andar?
Andar, could you sigh really quick so I can try this out?
Vehicle 305.
Nice. What the fuck?
Nice shot, dude.
How'd you knock out 2 people with 1 bullet?
No,
He
I
shot a couple
shot.
times.
Oh, okay. All I heard was
While we were
one
all making
poo.
fun of him, he was.
Wow, someone fucking came up and killed him for me. He said bush to 300.
All right.
So descriptive.
Well, I mean, what else do you want us to?
Okay, he's by the truck. There's fucking 3 bushes beside. He's by one of them.
The car just
I'll pop
moved
the
and
tire.
shot it.
I shot the tire out. Okay, so he's down the ridge.
Andar, am I walking towards him? Give me direction. Spawn
Yes,
for me.
go a little bit more to your left.
So am I safe from this angle?
Yeah.
1 second. Is the car blowing up yet?
No. I don't know where the actual guy went.
Whoa.
I'm just clearing out the car in case there's
Oh, hey, I see a dude on a bike.
nice timing, Andar.
I'm fucking doing work. That was not the guy. That was.
Well, he's dead, so I can go in then.
We gotta move zone.
Yeah, up north of us, there's like a little shit compound thing.
Zone, guys. We gotta
Road,
fucking
road.
run.
Getting loot.
Okay.
Well, I got an 8-time scope for you, Andar.
Cool.
If you're into that kind of thing.
I'll trade you for 4 times.
Now you
I
just gotta
don't need a
fucking
scope,
live.
Andar. I'm using a fucking Uzi.
Imagine if you could.
Imagine what your head would feel like after you got a huge headache. Andar, do you want it? I'll just drop it.
See, the sad thing is I have huge headaches every day of my
No.
life.
Oh, zoom, it's on the ground.
Thanks.
Now that's what I call pod racing.
Now, that's what I call pop music.
This is gonna probably fuck me up, but at least it's a variable now, so I can zoom in and out with it.
Is
I
that a
have
car?
6 fucking kills already.
Nice job.
Jesus.
I have 1.
So you're saying I should give you snipers more often?
Yeah. Oh, there's a person right fucking beside me.
Bad man or a good man? Car coming. And there's a car coming behind you. Heads up.
Fuck Noob Killer. Why the fuck are we giving him the sniper rifle?
We usually don't give it to him. He just kind of takes it and we don't know.
Think I'm taking shots?
Wow, they all died in the zone. I have 7 kills.
Well, that means we have a car. Jamal, could you get the car and bring it to us?
That
Actually, I think one of them fucking survived.
I guess
It's
he's
the truck that kept driving.
There it
I
goes.
it just went. I was keeping an eye on it.
Oh, I don't have any fucking first aid kits.
I've got 2 things of pills if you guys need them.
I have a first aid kit.
I think
Is it-
if anybody deserves it, it's Andar.
Come to me,
He
big
has
boy.
been doing work.
Come on, butter imp. Let's go.
You late imp.
Oh, fucking. Oops.
Shots.
North.
From? North?
Fucking butter imp. I mean, Andar has it 8 times. I think we can count on him fucking just taking these mofos out.
Andar can do it. Andar can do it 9 times.
If he doesn't, I'll fucking report him.
At least we get time and we can. Oh, I was gonna say we can crawl over to the next zone, but no, we can't.
Time to go.
Oh, is that you, Andar? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I wish I found a car back there.
Northeast.
Yeah, by the trees.
And are you being shot right now? Jesus. Holy shit.
Serpentine.
Man,
With
there's
the
fucking.
serpentine, I'm taking shots.
I think they're behind those trees up there. Nope, they're behind the hill.
Yeah, they're on the hill, and then there's another fucking 2 behind.
40.
The smoking motorcycle. There's 2 guys there.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. The ones on the hill.
God damn it.
I'm swinging left so I can get some fucking distance and some cover.
The one time I have no
That
smoke
ain't gonna
grenades.
fucking work. Ooh, pan saved my life.
Making a run for it. Fuck it. What else do I have to live for?
Thanks
He's
for
right
the
there.
first aid kit.
Brooke, he's right up over that ridge.
He's shooting at me. He's distracted. It's fucking Yugi Moto.
They're dead.
Nice.
Good
There's
job.
2 more behind me.
Killed the king of games.
There's still 2 more guys
About to
behind that
use
hill
his
that
better
I'm facing.
bill.
Guys, you might want to get into the zone quick.
We're not safe yet, so get moving. There's still 2 guys that are behind that hill that are fucking camping it. They just threw a fucking...
Oh, I have shots on them.
I'm throwing a bunch of stun grenades, so be fucking careful. Right over the hill.
Flank.
Jeez, hit him.
They're trying to flank.
One guy got down, but it wasn't me that killed him. One guy's trying to push you. Oh shit.
I know, I'm dead.
Oh my god, how did I fucking live?
Andar, there's a guy on top of me right now.
Well, I'm kind of pinned down and I have literally a fucking...
That's fine.
Andar's just kind of like covered in scabs.
Yeah, just heal yourself for now. That's all you can do. Yeah, there's 2 guys to your right though, so keep your fucking eyes open. Like,
I know, there's some fucking guy off to my left at the...
there's really no winning here, but...
Well,
Oh, he sees you. Or not. Maybe just let him fight it out.
Got 40 seconds till zone.
I know, but I'm fucking surrounded by people.
yeah.
Well, maybe they're all distracted. You got it. You gotta get moving now. Wait.
Nice.
Thank you. The one, yeah, that one. That's the one that knocked me down. Oh,
The other one was the one that killed me.
you gotta get moving. You butter imp.
Hey, fat nips.
Come on, crystal nips. Cut some glass. Yeah. The shitty thing is they have all the fucking, like, 6 pills I have on my body. They're probably all hopped up on drugums and they're shooting people. That's the real scary thing.
This ain't gonna be behind the... yeah, sure. It wouldn't be. That's
No,
not
there's-
what would it be?
Just keep moving, man. Just keep moving. You can get to the top of the hill, you're not safe, but... That's it.
Ah, fuck.
Oh,
The spectator thing is underground.
That's normal.
7 kills!
I got 2 kills, actually, at the end there.
I got 1. That means altogether I think we got
I
10.
want to know how close this motherfucker was to me. Oh man, he was right fucking beside me.
Yeah, he was fucking close.
And there's 3 right fucking beside me. I was fucked. Oh, the guy made a fucking beeline for me. Oh, I didn't see him. Oh, I was shooting at his teammates. Okay.
Wait, what?
The guy who killed me, I was shooting at his teammates. So they split off.
I love the fact that we're
That
the
fucking car, man, I did so much work with that.
I love the fact that we're fucking, you know, the gray t-shirt, white pants crew, and then we just got
so is everybody. This is all that
Captain,
everybody has.
Captain Shirtless Khakis over here.
No, no.
At 57 cent.
37 cent.
Oh, we've come to the idea that anytime he's mentioned, he just gains another cent.
I'm 10 cents. I'm dime.
I'm $2.77.
My name's Nickel. I'm dime son.
My name's Toonie.
My
No.
name's Penny.
We don't talk about Penny.
Penny hungry.
We keep Tony Ryan hungry. And my
I have
game
a
crashed.
fetish for wearing women's clothing.
Why is it my fucking game?
You know,
Why can't your guys' game crash?
panties. My game crashed like 6 times already.
Yeah.
What a fun little game we're playing. Yeah, Jamal, if you ever get the game Gale Gun, it's basically like a light gun shooter, but you there's like a bunch of anime girls, and you have to shoot their crotches in order to like get headshots. Essentially.
Wait a second. Terry's the one that crashed, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
The worst fruit.
Still in the lobby.
All right.
Okay,
Should we just leave?
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I wish this game wasn't so garbage.
I want skinny khakis, a flannel shirt, and a snapback hat. Oh fuck,
Oh.
I accidentally rejoined the game. Fuck. Why does it pop up? I keep thinking it's an invite to something. I'm hungry.
Hey, Andar, it's me, Blackman.
Also, I hate Jamal. What do you look like with your shirt on?
Fucking gross.
Oh,
There's just nothing to your fucking character. God damn.
I'm hungry, man.
then eat a hungry man.
I don't have any more hungry mans. I ate them all.
Don't you have any money?
I do, but where am I gonna buy food at this hour of the night?
I've been spending all my money on anime porn.
I'm gonna fuss with you real quick. I might make some popcorn. Give me a minute.
See you in an hour.
Oh, I regret eating so much food.
Told you.
Oh. Oh my god. Oh shit.
Yes.
So Terry, have you heard about the big fire in California right now?
Which one?
The current big one. It's like 80,000 acres that are on fire right now.
Okay. Well, I know that there's another one that started up and it's getting pretty big.
So here's this. My grandparents actually live out there.
Yeah, that's my grandparents' house on fire.
No, they do live up in the mountains though, so I don't know. That's fucking
Oh,
scary.
damn. Yeah, fuck that. I don't know why anybody wants to live in fucking California. Earthquakes, hot as shit, forest
what kind-
fires, droughts. It's like it's never good.
God damn. Hey, I know this parking. Oh shit, that's Pets Liquor. I know that place. Why the fuck are people still staying out there? I don't know why you'd want to live in like a flaming hellscape.
Because
I mean, it sounds cool in theory. It's just, you know, the numerous things wrongs with that.
think I just bugged my game out. I'm gonna leave the team, re-invite me. Please.
No.
Please?
No, you can't join.
But I wanna.
$50, thank you. You wanna join, you gotta suck your dick.
You gotta suck daddy's dick.
Oh. Oh.
Hey, yo, I'm back with some popcorn.
I think you're making tea.
No, I made popcorn. It's me, your boy, Popcorn.
That explains why I was lagging, though.
I've opened up this popcorn dumb.
Did you do it by the fucking top with both your hands and burn them hard?
No, it's one of those Orville Redenbacher ones where you peel the top part off and it makes a little bowl. But instead I just rip off the paper. Look at that. Delish.
Into my life.
Alright.
Ready up, scrubs?
Sorry, I was reading up on how to turn a fucking IKEA side table into a server rack.
Oh.
Sorry guys,
Wait,
I
you
was
guys
learning how to repurpose my Lego table.
Wait, do you guys have IKEAs out there?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Why wouldn't they?
Dude, IKEAs are everywhere.
Now I
that's
wonder
what
if I should get this, because the fucking table itself is cheap as shit.
Yeah. But you get what you pay for.
The issue is, again, yeah, IKEA stuff.
Okay, so I can buy a fucking, like, side table for, I don't know, $25. The server rack is over $100.
Well, then just buy 4 side tables and then put them all together, and then you can combine them.
I mean,
got 4
like,
side
how
tables and I
expensive
have
is the stuff that you're putting on it, though, you know?
$1,000.
I don't know, man. Have you seen what's inside those fucking things? It's like cardboard. They have cardboard.
I know, but the top of the legs are solid.
All right. I mean, if you trust it, God.
And someone put fucking 45 kilos, so
Alright,
that's like
Fucking
that's
Linus
over
Tech
100
Tips.
pounds.
Linus
screwed
Tech
into
Tips
that
have
table.
built a server inside of an actual cardboard box before.
Well, yeah, but that's Linus
Well,
Tech
it doesn't
Tips.
have to be. Okay, whatever. Andar, it's your fucking turn to pick. Look, there's a crater.
Crater Field sounds like a roller coaster tycoon scenario.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
Don't worry, I am taking. Ah, fuck it, let's go yellow. 3, 2, 1, go.
Come on, I gotta go.
There's a bunch
there's
of people.
They're probably going to San Martin.
You mean San Quentin?
I mean San
Sure.
Diego.
You mean Quentin Tarantino?
You mean
Director.
foot fetish?
Let's have a foot fetish.
I was watching Glorious Bastards and I forgot there was an entire scene dedicated to like a Nazi like sniffing a woman's foot.
Holy
like-
shit, there's a lot of people over there. I was thinking about dropping over there for a minute. Oh, we have... No, that's my shadow. I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I did that too actually.
Oh shit, we got 4 people. Oh wait, no. That's our shot.
Oh god, there's one. Oh, there's 2. Wait, guys, we need to go somewhere
There
else.
are already people
I'm
landed.
I'm seeing doubles here, 4 shadows.
I think you're foreshadowing something, Fruit.
I'm foreshadowing my new career. It's me. $3.37.
His net worth went up $3.
I'm feeling pretty good about myself recently. I'm not entirely sure why.
50 Cent got really angry and he wants you dead. Bang, bang, bang.
Oh god. Oh god, 30 cents fell out of my pocket. Oh god, I feel like $4.97.
That's a good way to teach children math.
My stream's educational now.
By the way, Jamal, what does Stamper's dick look like?
I don't even know how to describe it, man.
It's just it's like a magical experience.
I could send you
Is it
the
still
picture.
up?
It still hasn't been taken down.
But I thought his Twitter got banned.
His old Twitter got banned. He went on to a new one and then just immediately posted it, and it's been there since.
Why? Was he trying to like prove a point?
I don't know. I think he was. Stamper's getting to the point whenever I'm really worried about him. Like, he's telling cops to fuck off, and he's posting his dick on social media. I get it's just because he doesn't give a fuck, but like, dude's gonna end up in prison or something.
Well, maybe that's where he belongs.
Showing his dick to inmates. I love
Well,
Stamper,
then,
though.
then they can also
No,
be...
he's not circumcised, so he can do anal without a condom.
Wait,
That was a joke in one of the... I just kind of sound like a sociopath there. Just fucking forget it. Whatever. Like, if you don't know the fucking...
It's pretty bad whenever you realize yourself that, oh god, I sound like a sociopath.
Honestly, if it's all just memes and you know you don't actually mean it, it's all fine. That's what I've come to terms with. And that's how I can make all those terrible, terrible jokes. Just
Where
gotta
the
think
fuck
juice.
are you?
I might have dropped to the long run. I was sort of wondering where you guys were.
Yeah, far away from you, apparently.
It's gonna be our fault when he dies, man.
Yeah, it's your fucking fault, Terry, especially you. I was thinking about Stamper's dick and you distracted me.
You fucking brought it up.
It's all your fault.
I'm gonna head
So
over to
what-
Blue Guys.
Where are they gonna get airplanes?
Okay, I'm following Terry.
Where are you
I really
going?
wish I could just eat my popcorn. Oh no, Tony Ma killed Shadynasty.
Wait, you mean Shady Nasty?
No, Shadynasty.
I'm not sure how I feel with the Shady Nasty.
Shady's nuts.
Got
Andar.
him!
Andar, you went to college, right? Did you
Yes.
take any philosophy courses in college?
No.
Oh, did you
But
take
I
any
did
history?
take an abnormal psychology course, and I learned a lot about mental disabilities.
Interesting.
And yeah.
Fruit,
so-
I have some bad news for you.
What?
I'm just
No, did you hear about? There was actually an old. This is actually part of it because there was actually a Greek guy who studied like mental diseases back in like ancient Greece. Have you ever heard of
Did they
Bophades?
change the sound of the thread zone?
Yes, they did.
It's fucking
Yeah.
And
genuinely
both-
terrifying now.
No, I've never.
Shut up, Jamal.
Bophades, you know, Bophades nuts.
I mean, I really didn't give a shit if I was interrupting him because I knew where that was going.
Yeah, but Andar didn't, you fucking joke killer. I just locked you upside. I'm sorry.
Lock me out in the fucking red zone, you piece of shit.
You stay out in the rain. You deserve it.
The enemy people have prejudices.
Tech root nuke online. Oh fuck.
Oh, fuck. Free kill. I'm good at this game.
On me.
Guys, there's 71 people alive. What if I'm one of them?
You could be.
Are you alive?
No.
No, you're not one of them.
No?
I'm really depressed, so it feels like I'm not alive.
That's just a way to hands-free eat popcorn.
Well, Jamal, you could just kind of shove your face in the bag, but we typically frown on that kind of shit.
Hey,
Hey,
do
your
it, faggot.
sir. I'll take
Eat
that.
it like the filthy pig you are.
Okay.
I'm the real
So
definition
we're in
of a
the
butterhead.
middle of the zone.
Jamal, when you eat, could you make like snorting noises for me? It's the only way I can get off.
You know that one scene out of a Christmas movie?
Rhapsody
Whenever-
Street Kids.
Ralphie and Randy are fucking eating their food, and they start making the pig noises, and they start shoving like mashed potatoes in their face.
The Christmas
Howdy.
story.
That scene was weird.
I love that movie so much.
I
Watch it
know.
every year.
Dude,
Don't
every
shoot
year
my
TBS
eye
does a like 24-hour marathon of it.
Why?
I don't know, but we
Sorry.
just leave it on.
Stop throwing grenades at me.
What?
Wait, where's the smoke? What the fuck, Terry?
What?
Why'd you fucking throw a frag grenade at me?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, Terry.
Oh. Okay. Being an asshole again.
Dude, look
How
at
do
my
you,
ass.
like, the fucking, like, smoke grenades just gravitate towards you, don't they? I swear, I never find the goddamn thing.
Dude, look at my
You just have, like,
butt.
this weird gravitational pull. They just kind of, like, constantly pull in towards you.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh god, come on, we gotta win, guys. Let's go.
We're going.
Kill someone.
I don't know. We're kind of in a good spot. You want to just go up a little north and check out those places of blue?
Sure.
Oh. Dude,
Oh,
if I
let's
could,
get rid of
like,
popcorn.
the fucking movie theater butter,
Yeah. You know, it's not real butter, right?
I don't care. It's delicious.
It's corn syrup.
Jamal, it's bad for you. You shouldn't eat that much food.
You know,
Oh, did my game just crash?
did it?
Yeah, it just crashed.
I shoot you in
Permission
the
to
head?
fire at will.
Well, as much as I know you guys want to kill me on a
You're
regular
still
basis,
running, Fruit. You're still fucking running.
That's good because I'm going to be starting the game back
You're
up in a second.
still running. Oh my god! Look at this.
How far out is he gonna get?
I don't know. I want to like just like keep an eye on the kill cam.
No, guys, no, they have blocked.
I wish I had a silencer. I would have just take pot shots.
I'm just waiting for, like, gut run over.
So fucking stupid. I'm sorry that you have to play this game with us, Andar. You don't have anybody good to play this
Oh
fucking
shit,
game.
shots.
I've actually been doing good. It's just that, you know, the game just crashed.
Yeah, shots so fast.
I was too busy paying attention to the fucking fruit.
What did you just call me?
I almost called you noob.
I mean, after today, that should probably be offensive to me.
Shots?
At least you made it to Andar Night.
No, that was me fucking tactical leaping through the windowsill.
Oh, okay.
Come on, just let me go prone.
Double barrel over here if anybody wants it.
Police.
In here.
Oh, did you actually load back in, fruit?
Hey, I'm alive.
Hey, Terry.
Yeah. Hey! Shots!
Hey, that's pretty cool.
Hey, guys, I'm still alive. So I can crawl up the wall and get shot 50 times by you guys again. Guys, just turn around!
I was really hoping you were gonna get run over by somebody.
Hey, can you have that as a quote?
Sure.
So I can edit. No, that is to my personal quote list of things Jamal has said to hurt me.
Did you know that if you put all the quotes in a specific order, it tells a short story?
Yeah, all about how my life got flipped turned upside down.
Shit, Dynasty. Don't touch me.
If you read every
motherfucker.
quote backwards, you summon Satan himself. It's me,
Which one's that?
Satan.
It's me, Satan.
Satan.
It's me.
Yeah, I gotta do it.
What the fuck am I doing?
Someone's at someone's door. Dude's baseball camp. Purple garbage bags. Lost ball. Red tractor truck.
Damn, you guys are still playing. Holy shit.
That would be new.
What
Yes,
the
he's
fuck?
back again.
No, he's on his
Oh,
phone.
it's him.
Oh,
It
sorry.
is the noob. He is back again.
How was the new map?
Really fucking cool.
Okay,
I am having fun.
that's cool.
How was your cosmic bowling?
Fun.
I told you guys he went bowling.
I
Yeah,
they
you said
knew.
that.
You're the only person that didn't know.
Oh, I just took a guess.
Did they just play along with the fact that they didn't know? Because I fucking told them. Sorry.
Who are you again?
I don't know.
I
Some
don't
fucking
recognize
loser.
the voice.
I don't
Can you
know.
hear
Some
me?
fucking loser.
Sounds like he's been talking to him about it.
I have been. But it's fine. I'll stop when I did. Oh, fruit
Alright.
house is on fire. Shit.
Car here.
I'm actually getting shot.
Fuck
I
me.
Terry!
just fucking avoided death.
So, Terry, what was the point of that exactly?
I don't know.
Did someone pick me up?
I'm down.
Can you get in here?
Hey, Terry, I just want to point out the fucking treading on your tire skimmed my fucking face.
Fucking down. I don't think I like this game.
Oh. It took you this long to realize that?
I'm just not good at it.
You know what they say, Terry?
I mean, Terry, you just gotta not do that.
I can't ever fucking hit anybody. Ever.
Why don't you use a
Ever.
shotgun then? Just use
I
single shot
do. I
weapons.
still can't fucking hit anybody.
Aim for the chest.
I don't know.
Where's the other two?
I
So
don't
I'm
know.
confused.
He
Was
shot
Terry
me through the
driving-
door and then he took. Oh, he's coming upstairs. He's gonna. Hi.
Hi. For you now.
That thing takes a while to load, huh? Alright.
Well, that didn't go too well.
I think I'm done.
So I'm confused. Who is driving the cart?
Me?
Did they come from behind you, or did they come
came
from?
from over the wall the other direction.
Goddamn Mexicans!
Yeah.
Yeah, they fucking lit me up.
Yeah, they lit us all up.
Did not think that anybody was coming. I didn't hear anything. Didn't see anything.
Well,
Was it like
Terry-
when we ambushed you? Was it that bad?
a little bit. I just saw Terry driving around, I think, and then he like slammed
I
into
almost
the-
killed like two of you guys.
Yeah, that was me and Jamal.
I think I like shaved
Gave Jamal a
some of-
haircut, yeah.
some of Jamal's pubic hair off.
Yeah, you
Shreds.
the fucking shred of the tire literally gave me a clean shave.
And then I was just sort of like, oh, and I fucking banked the fuck up. And then all of a sudden I'm being shot. I'm like, wait, what's happening? I thought Andar was just like fucking around or something.
Rice fucking came in here. Why being attacked by Alliance? You know, fuck it. You're gonna die. I'm a shot priest, motherfucker. I can still do damage.
But I thought you were on your phone.
Eat shit and die. Oh, look at that.
No, it just sounds like shit.
Yeah, that tends to happen when you're sick, silly.
Nice. I sound like garbage because oh, Cole's back.
Because you're sick.
Wow, that was pathetic. kind of want to come here, my warrior, and destroy them on them, but I don't have to.
Also new, yeah, the new map is actually really fucking cool.
Yay! Andar killed the
Stop
man.
attacking me! Oh my god, you guys are fucking sad.
Don't say sad, it makes you sound like Donald Trump.
And he does sound
I
like Donald
have
Trump whenever he's
perfectly fine hands.
Please
Oh,
stop.
that's what the voice was.
You just stop to take drink water or something.
I've been drinking water like fucking water.
Then why do you still sound like you're dying?
It's almost like I'm sick or something. Oh no.
Well, remember, if you talk from the bottom of your throat, you can actually talk normally.
Okay, I'll just talk like this all the time. Hey Peter, can you hand me that wrench?
I mean, to be fair, it does work, doesn't
Peter,
it?
I told you not to go over that.
Peter, I told you not to go to that stag party, even though I'm Joe or something. I don't fucking know.
You know, I could just visualize the chart of this player on Battlegrounds game for Andar's happiness. It starts off like at the very top, and then right now it's just plummeting as we speak.
Is Andar still alive?
Yeah.
Somehow.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
He was the,
Hey, Peter.
Basically what happened was we all got lit the fuck up because we were outside, and Andar was the first person to realize we were being shot, so we just took cover.
So Andar's like, was a smart motherfucker and went, hey, see you later.
So pretty much every match that we played this tonight, really.
Except the first one where I joined.
Well,
I
Terry,
totally
if you're still looking to stop playing, I'll jump in, but it's up to you. You don't have to.
Actually, hold the fucking phone. I
Playing
gotta get that.
Minecraft.
You don't have to.
I'm already in Minecraft.
What's happening? I want to see if I can clip that fucking thing. Oh shit, Jamal's. Okay, I'll probably have to wait till the stream's over.
Yeah,
Shit.
it's still streaming.
Jamal, stop being so popular.
Oh yeah, to my no viewers. Gotcha.
Is there no one watching?
At the moment, no.
It's fine, don't worry about it. You're doing fine. I'm proud of you. And isn't that all that matters?
I'll hit partnership in no time.
Oh.
Hey, it's Joe Pearson guy said to make you a partner or something.
Oh my god, the hippo mission.
The hippo mission. Oh boy, here comes Daddy fucking...
Let's watch Andar.
Like, I took on 2 of them with a fucking oath, and then a couple of rounds of lever
Are
action.
both of you guys done playing it?
Yeah, I'm just watching
Is there everybody done playing it?
I'm
Well,
probably
no,
done
Andar's
after
still
this.
playing.
Is that it? What's more?
So I'm probably done after this one.
Oh, cool, okay.
Well, maybe
Look,
if you
we're
actually
playing
showed
for
up, you
fucking
butt ass.
4 hours.
We've been playing for 2 hours, dude.
Watch this. Cord.
Also, let's for a bit.
Nice core, Andar.
Did he actually land it?
No.
No.
What? The map just said there was a red zone on top of you, and it just disappeared immediately.
Oh god, my stomach.
But stirred them.
The game is realizing how shitty the people you're playing with are. It's like throwing you a fucking bone.
What are you talking about? We're fucking great.
Fucking garbage. Me most of all, goddammit.
Not with that attitude, mister. You gotta fucking... You gotta just
I mean, to be
believe it.
fair, most of this game I was more focused on my popcorn.
Excuses, excuses. Look, I'd say we all did pretty fine. We just got caught off guard. You know what? Sometimes life catches you off guard. And you gotta break into someone's house and kill their family.
Rimhood's on the server.
Oh, I hit a Mark 14? Oh, fuck.
What? It's a Mark 14.
Actually, I don't know if I want to take it. Actually, fuck it. Yeah, I will.
Okay, no, we can play that game, okay. Okay, we're gonna get on our mains. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. Let's go then, come on.
Playing World of Warcraft 2017.
Is your cat just like shitting in your mouth every night while you sleep?
I'll leave, sorry.
You don't need to fucking leave. I'm just making fun of you shit.
Terry, this is why he's going to hang out with other people.
Yeah.
How could you?
This is why he continuously goes bowling.
You're really pushing it to
Think
the
of the
edge.
life expectancy of those bowling pins, man.
What? Hey, can you hear me? Alright. Did Andar win yet?
We're at a
No, I'm
fucking
trying to figure out-
standstill. I ran out of popcorn. Oh shit. Man, you fucking looked up at the right time.
Yeah, where's his fucking friend though?
Up your ass 3 miles down all the way to Chinatown.
I didn't fucking realize there's only fucking 19 other people left.
I believe in you, Andar.
Yeah, 20 left. Does Andar have a fucking LMG?
No, I got a mini Mark 14 or whatever the fuck it is.
Jesus.
It's a sniper rifle, and when I lay down, it's got a bipod on it, which I might need right now.
Oh, that's cool.
A shotgun.
Oh, shit. The fucking fan.
I'm fucked. I'm so fucked. Fuck.
Oh. 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 God damn, Andar. Oh, shit.
I regret dropping all those fucking.
I just heard you get fucking panned and
Pandas?
oh god. Dude, how the fuck are you taking so many bullets?
Yeah, I'm dead.
Oh.
I had to give up. I
Yeah,
wonder
you still...
what. I gotta watch the kill cam, see what happens. We got 6 fucking players though.
Not bad,
I
man.
like
Oh
the-
yeah,
the
no,
part
it's
whenever
my
you just,
perspective
like-
of just fucking dying.
Player
that was
Grungeman's... Yeah, it's fucking fun. I had fun. No, I just gotta clip that one thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end off the stream. Oh, look at that. I closed out of the game normally. A PlayerUnknown's Battleground process has crashed. We are very sorry that this crash has occurred.
Make sure you send the report.
Gonna be a good boy and help out my fellow game developers.
Wait, Terry's still here? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Wait, Terry, I thought you left, though.
No.
Not yet.
Well, I guess that's the end of this stream. Bye, everybody.